This show brought to you by WP Relax. No matter whether you have an existing site, want to transfer your site, or need to start a WordPress site from scratch, we have a plan to suit your needs. So say bye-bye to WordPress problems and relax with WP Relax.
Hi everyone, this is Ahmed Karimli and welcome to Be Efficient TV. The mission of this web TV show is to boost the efficiency of your business and life through tips and tricks from leading experts. And today I have with me Mike Michalowicz. He is a rapid business growth expert and profit expert. He's an author of 3 best-selling books and he's a speaker as well. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks for having me, Ahmed. I appreciate this.
It's a pleasure to have you. So what's your background and how did you become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I started my first business right out of college. I didn't really actually intend to start a business, but kind of fell into it. And was in computer technology, so I set up computer networks. When I started, it was just me and another guy, a friend of mine. We started it in the basement. We slowly built it, and it took us quite a few years, but maybe on our 5th or 6th year, we finally made the $1 million mark of sales and thought we had it going well and grew it. And then finally, I sold that company to private equity. It means some wealthy people bought it. My second company was in computer crime investigation, and we helped facilitate some of the biggest investigations, at least up to that point in history, in U.S. history. So we facilitated the investigation of Enron, not all of it, just a piece of it, but we were a major player in there. Some big murder trials, divorce cases, we were doing that, and I sold that company to a Fortune 500, and then ultimately became an author, something that is actually my absolute true passion, doing what we're doing right now, just talking about entrepreneurship and sharing experience.
Investigations like computer, what do you mean computer investigations?
Computer
like hackers?
Crime. Yeah, hackers and stuff. Mostly it was what's called corporate espionage or some kind of corporate litigation where a business, people inside a business were stealing information or using information wrongly. And what we do, for example, in Enron, there was this transaction that happened. There was a barge in Nigeria, of all places, that there was a fake transaction that occurred. And what we did is we investigated the email string as it went around people, seeing what the real conversation was. Because when these people were confronted about this fraud that they had committed, they denied it. And they said, no, we didn't do this. But we looked at the email chain and we saw, sure enough, that they acknowledged and supported this fraudulent transaction.
Why did you sell the companies? Like you are not a fan of cash flow if a company going well and it's just like passive income. Why?
But I totally am a fan of that now. But back then, I had this kind of rogue, tough guy mentality, thinking that I would just pump and dump my businesses, grow them very quickly, and sell them, and I would just do it over and over again. My next iteration of this was I became an investor. I started 10 companies, or I just put my money into these companies.
As an angel.
As an angel. I call myself the angel of death now because I was really bad at it, and I killed most of these businesses. My idea was put money in it and very quickly build and sell them, and that failed horribly. And that's when I got back to some of the grassroots, and one of the big things is exactly what you just shared. Focusing on cash flow. Build a business that I never want to sell. I enjoy the experience, and it generates wealth, for me and my colleagues.
Did you worked as an employee before the entrepreneurship life?
Yeah, for a very short period, for a couple of years. After I sold my second company, I was in a contract. It was a Fortune 500 company, and I was required to work there under contract. But that's the only times I've ever been an employee.
What is your current focus? Which companies you are involved in now?
Well, what I focus on is kind of what we're doing now, is spreading the word on my books, my philosophies. And this is what I do 90% of the time: speaking engagements, television, podcasts, and webinars. And I actually do well with that because in many circumstances I'm compensated for it. But behind that is also some businesses I've started. So I have a coaching organization. So some businesses owners reach out and want to be coached on my methodologies. I have a partner, her name's Donna, who runs that. I have a certification group I started for accountants and bookkeepers to be certified in Profit First. The method is one of my books. And I have a managing partner who runs that. I have a manufacturing business I'm a co-owner in, and there's a gentleman who runs that full time. But all I do is this. I continue to do what I enjoy to do the most and put my attention there, and then surround myself with people who are really capable in areas that complement what I'm doing.
Do you still invest in some companies? I saw that you're involved in a leather company and some other companies
that's
and
the
ventures.
Manufacturer. Yeah, I do. I have. I'm an owner in about 6 businesses, but I'm not looking to expand anymore. Unless it's a perfect fit, unless the business allows me to just keep doing what I'm doing and I can get a little participation by doing what I'm currently doing, then I'm interested. The second it requires me to do more or different, it's outside of my wheelhouse. I don't.
Is that because you don't want to get involved in the headache in case you see something wrong and you cannot stop yourself from jumping in to fix the problem?
That's part of it. Yeah, I just want to do what makes me happy, and I love what I'm doing right now. So why ever change that? So the question simply is then, if I can keep doing what I love to do and increase my income, I'll take it. But in most circumstances, it requires me to do different things. And now maybe I'm making a little more money, but I'm not liking what I'm doing. It's not worth it.
What's entrepreneurs and how to become one?
Well, so the term intrapreneur is the idea of entrepreneurship within an organization. So an entrepreneur is the man or woman who starts the business and manages and oversees it and is the risk taker. But as an organization grows in size, the people that join the organization are not inherently entrepreneurial. They're not inherently risk takers like you, the entrepreneur. If they were, they would start their own business in the first place. But you can inspire intrapreneurship where people within their capacities inside the business are empowered to take risks. They're encouraged to make mistakes because mistakes are the only way to find out new solutions. And so intrapreneurship is simply a cultural mindset where your people, your colleagues that you're working with, are empowered to take on risk and are not punished because they messed up. They're encouraged to explore and find new ways. They're encouraged to be innovative.
You don't find kind of a conflict sometimes or struggles when you try to communicate that to the top managements of certain organizations because they want to contain their employees and control them. Yeah, they don't want them to think out of the box or start their own businesses or.
Of course. So I was talking with a large corporation, and they said, we need people that are more entrepreneurial. How do we make our people more entrepreneurial? And my first tip to them was, and they didn't like hearing this, you can't make someone into something. We are who we are. You want to find people who inherently have the desires that match what you need. So I said, if you really want the most entrepreneurial business you've ever had, you have to hire entrepreneurs, which means these are people that are going to join your business, but are going to be leaving very soon to start their own. But that's what you should expect because they're entrepreneurs. They said, well, we don't want that. We want people that are very loyal, will work ridiculously long hours, and be entrepreneurs. I said, well, I don't know if they exist. So the next step is to set up an environment to put certain safety mechanisms in place for these people, but also to allow them to explore on their own. And the most stringent people say, well, I don't want them exploring. I just want them to be entrepreneurial. And then it just doesn't work. If you're going to put this many rules in place and channel a person, but at the same time expect a whirlwind of entrepreneurial activity and a mindset like that, it's a mismatch. It's never going to happen.
The problem is, I think, also most of the CEOs of the big companies, they are employees. Like, they cannot get it. Like, maybe if you work with a startup founder, he has this spirit of entrepreneurship.
No, you're totally right. I've talked to some CEOs, and they said, I need my people to be more entrepreneurial. And they said, and as they sip on their, cognac or whatever, and a $1,000 or $1 million check gets deposited into their account every week. And what's happened is now these people have become so into the routine, they don't know what entrepreneurship is. And entrepreneurship, to me, is actually the lack of money forces you to be very innovative, to find new ways to accomplish the same things without money. So once these senior leaders are in a routine of where they have expectations of certain compensation and so forth, that starts chipping away at that innovative spirit.
What are the main problems that you find in the small businesses, like small business owners makes in their businesses when you try to fix and help them, fix the business and help them to grow?
The biggest problem I see is the mistake of focusing on growth and not profit. Believing that the more we grow, that profit will happen one day. That profit's a future event, and the only way to get there is with one more big customer or that big sale or the big investor, one big step. And so that's the whole reason I wrote my book, Profit First, was I believe entrepreneurial success, small business success, is actually allocating profit immediately, making profit a daily habit, that every step forward the business takes, that there's more and more profit accumulating. It's just a shame, and it frustrates me, but this is what I'm trying to fix in the world, is most entrepreneurs think you got to grow, and profit will happen one day, and that's a lie.
So how to profit first? Like, can you take us step by step through your system that you invented to help like businesses turn from cash-eating monster into cash money-making machine?
Yeah. So it's based upon a behavioral principle. So maybe this is where I should start. There's a behavioral principle out there called Parkinsons Law. And what Parkinson's Law states is that it's human nature to expand our demand to meet the supply of something. An example I love to use, and I use it over and over, is a tube of toothpaste. When we get a new tube of toothpaste, we put long beads on our toothbrush, and we're brushing our teeth away, and if the toothpaste falls in the sink, we put more toothpaste on it. But when that toothpaste tube is almost empty, now we start squeezing as much out of it we can. We bend it over the sink. We're biting on the end of the tube just to get more toothpaste out. And now we're very conservative. We don't put long beads on. We put small amounts on and brush our teeth. Our behavior changes based upon how much is supplied. Full tube of toothpaste, we inherently subconsciously use more. And when there's less toothpaste, we're much more conservative and innovative in how we extract toothpaste out of it. Well, that principle applies to toothpaste, but applies to every aspect of our lives, including money. And what happens with most entrepreneurs in the traditional mindset of grow, is when sales come in, the money gets deposited into a bank account, and we look at it, we see a full tube of toothpaste, and we consciously or subconsciously start spending money from that account, usually in its entirety. And we say, well, the money's here. I can make the investment I finally need to make. Now we can hire that employee we need to hire. I can finally pay myself. The money gets consumed very quickly. So the core principle of Profit First is simply do this. When sales come in, to immediately take out a predetermined percentage, 5, 10, 15% of that money from your income, your sales, and stick it into a profit account. Remove that money and hide it away from yourself. Now what happens is when that money comes in, there's less money available to spend, and behaviorally we start to adjust. We don't have a full tube of toothpaste anymore. We intentionally are giving ourselves a deflated tube, and now we start spending much more conservatively, and we become much more innovative. We find ways to get things done because we don't have the money in new innovative ways.
So even in businesses, like you encourage them to have like 2 accounts, like usually in most businesses they have one account and all the transactions. So do you advise them to have 2 accounts, and profit or saving account and current account? Or
Exactly. And I actually suggest 5 accounts. My grandmother did this, is when my grandmother worked, and when she would get some money in, we'll say $100 for a couple weeks of work, she had these different envelopes. One was set up for food. Another one was to pay the rent. Another one was for giving back to the community, some form of charity. Another one was for expenses. And so when the $100 came in, she would divide the money up to the different envelopes. And what was fascinating is when she went food shopping, she always had enough money. Now, it wasn't the same amount of money. Sometimes she was sick and she would get no pay that week. Other times she'd work overtime and get a little more money. But she always had enough because whatever was in the food envelope, that was all she permitted herself to spend. So sometimes when there was little money in there, it was rice, and that's all we ate. Other times when there was more money in there, it was rice and chicken. So whatever was in the envelope, she mandated that's all she'll use. She never took from the other envelopes. And therefore, there was always money available for the different purposes. Our businesses, all we do is take grandma's envelope system and apply it to our businesses. I suggest 5 accounts. One's an income account. Its sole purpose is to collect money. As you sell,